Welcome to the Mentors and Moguls Podcast, your source for the inside scoop from some of the world's most accomplished business leaders, athletes, and creatives on how they've achieved success. I'm Heather Stone, a serial entrepreneur with a passion for helping others to overcome challenges and discover their untapped potential. Join me and our guests as we teach you how to break through those barriers on the way to crushing your goals. In each episode, I dive into a new topic with an inspiring mentor to find out exactly how they overcame obstacles, slayed self-doubt, and achieved their goals. Today's expert mentoring session is about to start, so grab your pen and let's dive in. Have you ever wondered what makes a game show a hit? Have you ever wanted to pursue a career in the entertainment industry? How about a career as a producer or an executive of daytime TV? Now that we've been locked in our homes during several months of quarantine and spending way more time than normal looking for good programming, I thought it would be fun to tap into the mind of a great female executive that helped to identify and build some of your favorite daytime TV. Today, I'm chatting with Michelle Newman about her experience with the networks, the celebrities, and the game shows. Today, we pull back the curtain for a rare look behind the scenes of daytime network TV. Hi, Michelle, and welcome.
Hi, Heather. It is so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. I am excited to dive into the TV world and learn about your career in television and all things new that you're doing. First, let's start off. I know that you are a seasoned executive coming from the network world. Tell me a little bit about what first attracted you to a career in television production. Why TV production?
Well, it's funny that you say that because my last job, I was vice president of CBS Daytime Programming and Marketing. And when I was a little kid, I used to watch soap operas and get in trouble for my dad. And then it's funny. It's like, Dad, now I have a career in making them.
Well, perfect. So was it kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy? You wanted to be around that?
Yes, I guess it was. But funny enough, I did also help develop Let's Make a Deal, the game show, and also The Talk, which is the talk show, which was exciting. And this is kind of a funny story, if you don't mind. But when I was in college, I did an internship with a game show called Win, Lose, or Draw. I know I'm dating myself.
I remember that.
It was filmed on the Bob Barker stage, which is where The Price is Right is shot.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go. Years later, I end up being the network executive that oversaw The Price is Right. So it was kind of funny, full circle.
Full circle. Well, you're definitely in the right place if you love soap operas and TV. Kudos to you for landing that position.
Yeah, that was fun. But, I actually didn't start out as a VP. But when I first started, I was at Entertainment Tonight, and I did another internship at Entertainment Tonight, and they hired me when I graduated from school, which was really wonderful. And that's a plug for anyone who's thinking about doing internships. You can get hired. So then I went into the talk shows and the game shows after that. So
what do you like better, talk shows or game shows?
They're actually both really fun. And they're sort of two different types of animals, definitely. The game shows, there's a lot of components to it. You have the prize department, you have the actual games that you have to come up with. And to keep it fresh and new, the producers are constantly coming up with new games, which is really fun. It's a fun thing to do. And then you have the contestants. You have different contestants with each show. And they're kind of a wild card. You have to make sure you have good contestants. So it's a skill. The same gentleman has been picking the contestants for The Price is Right, Stan, for years and years and years. And he has it down to an art. Like he talks to every single person that's in line at The Price is Right for about 30 seconds.
Oh.
And he knows who to pick and who not to pick.
Wow. So he does. He has it down. He's got to have a sixth sense about what's going to work on TV and what's not going to make a good contestant.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Wow. Well, I can only imagine that the game show development process, along with the talk show process, is quite lengthy. Do you get lots of pitches? Are there lots of frustrating meetings thinking this will work, that will work? How do you select a game show, a new one?
Well, it's interesting because since I was in the network world, we really didn't change our shows very often for daytime. So the fact that after 20 years, CBS decided to put on new shows was highly unusual. And so I got promoted into my position because we were developing shows. And how it works generally is when you have a time slot open, you sort of announce it to the TV world, and production companies will come in and give you pitches. You'll be on the phone a lot, you'll get emails, and you kind of figure out, you'll bring in people and they'll talk you through what the show is. And then we'll meet and we'll be like, oh, I think this might work. I think that might work. And then you ask for budgets. Like, okay, if we're going to give you what's called a pilot is the first episode that's ever shot for a show. Mm-hmm. So they do this in prime time a lot. So we'll give them the money. We'll find out, okay, this doesn't cost, this costs enough. This is okay. And so we're going to pick these 5 ideas to shoot pilots. So then we go and we flesh out the show and we see what it's like. We do a whole run through as if the show was airing, but we only do 1 episode. And then we take those episodes after they're finished and we have a showing, a viewing. And so all the executives at that network will watch the show and they'll give you feedback of what they think will work and what won't work. And then from there on, we'll pick which show will be aired. And that's how we got Let's Make a Deal. Now, it was so interesting, Heather, if you don't mind if I can tell you a little story about Let's Make a Deal.
Please do. Please do.
But they actually canceled Guiding Light on April 1st.
What?
Yes, on April Fool's Day. Isn't that horrible?
Yes.
Couldn't they have done it on March 31st?
Right.
April 2nd? So we had the quickest turnaround. Daytime usually takes about a year or so to develop a show and then put it on the air. Well, we had 6 or 7 months to get it up and running, which was crazy. And so we had all these run through on host and who was going to do it. And finally, we got Wayne Brady, who is amazing.
Love him.
Oh, he's so talented. Mm-hmm. And during that whole time, too, Monty Hall was a huge, because he's the one who developed the show. He was amazing. He's
an icon.
He was there. Yeah. I mean, God rest his soul. He was 88 when we launched that show. And he was at the first tapings and giving us input. He was just so amazing. And his wife, Sharon. So they were just awesome.
Well, do you think today, from all of your experience, do you think that you could pick a hit or a miss on your own today?
Well, that's so funny that you say that. So if I can tell you another little story, when I was just a production assistant, I was working at a syndicated TV show called Extra, which I don't think Extra's on anymore, but I went from Entertainment Tonight to Extra. And I was in the TV production unit, and we had to go through all the new shows that were going to be released in the fall. And we were doing a little segment, of, these are the new TV shows that you're going to watch, blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of cool because I got to see them beforehand, before anyone got to watch them. And there were 2 shows that I insisted my friends watch. I was like, you guys have to come over. You have to watch these. They're awesome. They're going to be a hit. And I did that one other time too at CBS, that I insisted that I had to have my husband at the time, or my husband now, watch it. And it was Friends and ER. Knew immediately.
Yeah.
And then the one that I had my husband watch before it aired was The Big Bang Theory.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think you need to start putting some money down in Vegas on some shows.
Well, you just know. The chemistry's there. The script is there. If it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. It just, the feeling. It's, it's there. You can just tell it. And it starts with the script and the talent.
Mm-hmm. So going into the talent section, how is a host really chosen? Do they all audition for it, or you're looking for specific things? Or, how does that really work?
Well, it's interesting. As I had sort of mentioned before, with Let's Make a Deal, we went through so many run throughs. I mean, there's agents, of course, and you call up all the agencies and you say, this is what I'm looking for. And then you have them come in. And game shows in particularly are really tricky because there are so many different components to it that they have to be on their game. And, because they have to keep the game running and they need to know the rules. And then they need to keep the contestants involved and going. And then they need to kind of add in some humor and be funny. And it is a lot. I mean, it is not for the weary. It is a big thing. And that's a lot of reasons why comedians make some of the best game show hosts. Drew Carey, Wayne Brady, Steve Harvey. They're all great. Neil Patrick Harris. They're all really good, like game show hosts. It's not easy to do that. There's a lot going on for them. As far as a talk show host goes, it's interesting because we did a talk show that's an ensemble cast. So it's, there's co-host. So that's a little bit different. You need to make sure there's great chemistry and you want to represent sort of each demographic of women. If you're doing a solo show, authenticity is number one. People do not buy phony celebrities that host their own show. They see right through it. They want to know who you are, what you stand for, and do you care about them? And are you likable? Because if you're not that, people aren't going to want to spend their afternoon with you because it's really a personal relationship type of thing. So the more vulnerable the host is, like Kelly Clarkson is adorable. And she is who she is, and she's funny and she sings and, so she's just a doll, So, and Oprah, she was so real. I mean, she gave us her whole life and she really cared about her audience. And, she became this teacher to us. So that's my 2 cents on a good talk show host.
Well, it's funny you said Kelly Clarkson because I was thinking, what about Kelly Clarkson? I love her because she is what she is, and she draws you in, and you just have to laugh with her. So,
right?
Yeah.
Don't you just love it? I mean, yeah.
She definitely nails that one. I don't know anyone that doesn't like that girl.
Yeah, it comes across, and people can sniff out phonies. Like they can just sniff it out. And that's why a lot of times people get 1, maybe 2 years and that's it. It's hard to have a hit show, by the way. I mean, in daytime, which is mostly done by syndication, but in daytime, I'd say, I think the statistics like 95% of shows don't work. So the fact that I'm very proud, by the way, that both Let's Make a Deal and The Talk are still on air, I'm kind of proud about that.
Well, you should be, for heaven's sakes. Well, I know you know a lot about producing a show, and you are definitely a gal that gets things done. So I would imagine it takes a certain level of organization, leadership, multitasking, and energy kind of to wrangle all aspects of a job at that level. For someone looking to follow in your footsteps, what are the attributes, the qualities that they needed to possess or develop in order to thrive in an environment like that and rise up through the ranks?
Well, you know what? First and foremost, honestly, is your attitude.
Okay.
It's all about your attitude because you're going to be working hard. You're going to be working long hours. You're going to be working with all kinds of people, from the PA who's running ragged to talent. And talent has all kinds of different attributes that you need to be able to take care of. And, and everywhere in between, because, you're going to have your bosses at the network who are going to be expecting, they're spending good amounts of money. So, everybody has to play their part. But as you're working your way up through the industry, attitude is huge. Nobody wants to be around a Debbie Downer, that SNL character, or a complainer, or someone who talks bad about other people. I'll just be frank and honest with that. I think your attitude is huge. Also, your work ethic. I mean, I was the type of person who showed up before everybody and left last. I just worked harder. And it's funny because I really resonated. Kobe Bryant's work ethic, the Mamba mentality really resonated with me because that's actually what I'm trying to instill in my girls and my daughters. This not just working hard, but working hard with a purpose.
Right.
And that sort of being your guiding light. So, whatever job, whatever industry you're going into, I think attitude, good work ethic. And then I have to say, what really helped me a lot, I think, get promoted is I got to a point where I could basically read my boss's mind.
Mm,
I would know what they needed or what they wanted before they asked me.
that is a talent.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think that's really, really important. And don't try to toot your own horn in front of other people and your boss. Like, that's usually not looked really great upon, but it's okay for people, definitely if you have an opinion, let your boss know, or, if you did something good, make sure they know so other people don't get the credit. But I'm just kind of talking about more bragging, if that makes sense.
Sure, it does. Nobody likes a showboat in the office.
There you go. I like that.
That's very true. Well, looking back, you've had several jobs, obviously, in the industry. Do you have one favorite job to date, and why was it your favorite?
I'd have to say developing shows. I loved it. I loved starting something from scratch and then seeing it come to fruition. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of creativity, but it's fun. It's really fun. So can I tell you just a little story?
Please do.
About one of the shows one of the pilots we did. We did a show with Emeril Lagasse. Do you remember him? He's
Of course. Yes.
He does. Well, it was a really fun show and I was very disappointed it didn't get picked up, but we had contestants and they had certain ingredients that Emeril would give them. And then they had a certain amount of time, and it was an appetizer, a meal, and a dessert that they had to make a whole meal. And then he would go around and he would taste them and see if they were any good. And then they get voted off until the last person won. And it was always the baking, because baking's hard. I mean, that's tricky. So when we were filming the pilot, when the contestants were making their meal, Emeril would yell out to the audience, hey, what ingredients do you want me to use? And they would have like strange stuff like, oyster oil and balsamic and garlic. And they'd yell out all of these crazy spices and things to use with whatever protein we were cooking. And then when we'd yell, stop tape, and we'd, cut, and we'd have a little bit of a break, everyone would run to the stage with a fork because we'd want to taste what Emeril was making. And I kid you not, it was fabulous. It was so delicious, no matter what the crazy ingredients were. So that was really fun. But yeah, I'd have to say developing shows was fantastic.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I wish I had another lifetime to do that. That actually does sound like a lot of fun. So let's talk about the business side. So the creative side obviously flows very well for you. You've got the process down. You're a hard worker. That's a recipe for success right there. Were you involved with the budgeting process, like from the advertising perspective? What was that like? Was that something that you just want to tear your hair out, or was that just the same process for every show and you've got that whole formula down?
Well, I have to be perfectly honest with you. We didn't do a lot of budgeting because what happens is the production company, they come up with the budgets and then they give it to the network and we approve it. Mm. So I would have to go through the budgets to make sure there wasn't too much fat, and make sure we were getting what we were paying for. And then also making sure that we could then get it through. We were the creative side programming, and then there's a business side and a legal side. Right. And the budgets would all have to go through the business and legal side. So I sort of would get the budget from the production company, make sure there wasn't too much fat, make sure everything was looked in order. And then we'd send it to our business side, and then they would give us the thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay. So that's kind of how it works.
Interesting. So what do you think best prepare you for a role as an executive in television?
Well, I think I love TV. Honestly, I love television. And I joke, we started out saying I was a kid and watched soap operas. And that actually helped me a lot, believe it or not. just kind of knowing television and what works, what doesn't work, and liking it. That was a lot. And being a collaborator helps. Being able to take other people's opinions and ideas and working with them, sometimes making them better. It was just a lot of fun. I think a love, a passion for whatever you're doing is huge. That takes you really far.
Well, it sounds like you were a tried and true consumer. You were the people that you were ultimately trying to reach in your older self, right? In your adult life,
Yeah.
that kid that
Yes.
was watching soap operas. So you definitely were a perfect target for that. Do you have a myth that was dispelled that kind of burst your bubble once you got behind the camera, behind the scenes? Do you remember something that you think, wow, I had no idea it really worked that way, and too bad, or just I never would have thought?
Well, there is a lot of glitz and glamour, but it's hard work. It's definitely hard work. The other thing, and it all depends, but I do say this to some people. If you have a celebrity that you idolize, don't meet them.
Disappointments?
Because a lot of times you'll be disappointed. Not always. But I had a friend, we were we worked together. We were at ABC, one of our shows. We went to the show. I won't say which one or who the person was, but they were so excited to meet this person, and they couldn't have been more rude or unkind, unfriendly, short. And, we actually were working in promotion for that show. So it just we were rocked, and I felt so bad for my friend. They were so hurt and so disappointed. So I kind of learned right there, be careful. Be careful of meeting celebrities you like.
Right. Well, that's good advice. All that glitters is not necessarily gold, right?
Right.
So, with the creation of new platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all of the streaming facilities, has that changed the course of production? What's that like at the networks now to try and compete with that and hold their stake in those eyeballs they're trying to capture?
So, full disclosure, I'm not in the industry right now. So I don't know a ton, but I do know enough because I still have friends that are in the industry. And talking to them, one thing that was really liberating for my friends who are writers who write television shows, they love these new streaming avenues because they don't have to follow the network formula. So they'll pitch a show and they'll be like, okay, how many episodes is this? And they're like, well, usually it had to be 13 or 26. And they're like, well, no, how many episodes did you see this as? 7, 10, 13? And they're like, what? The other thing is when you're writing for a television show, you have to write several cliffhangers because you have to bring people back from commercials. So if you watch a regular television show, it'll have the dun, 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 and we'll be right back, and they'll go to commercial, and then you have to stay so that you know what happens. And they have to keep doing that over and over again. Where with streaming, there's none of that. It's like a movie. You just kind of write the whole show and then have the cliffhanger at the very end. So that's been interesting. The other thing that's been interesting, at least financially, for some of these bigger production companies like a Warner Brothers or CBS Studios and stuff, what I've been hearing is, this is, third hand, but what I've been hearing is the regular model. So it takes about 5 years for a television show to become profitable, believe it or not.
Wow.
You need to run it for about 5 years. And some of these other shows, like the primetime shows, they're very expensive to make. So it takes a while to get their money back and then start making money. But they make it in syndication and in products and international, but that's a whole other thing. But now these streamings, like I've heard, like Netflix and stuff, they're like, hey, we only want the show for 3 years. That's it. We only want it for 3, maybe 5 tops. And they're, and that's really hard for these Warner Brothers TVs and CBS Studios and Sony and stuff like that, because they love it when you get a show that goes 10 years, I mean, SVU, that's been going forever. I mean, people are like retiring The Simpsons, like
Right.
Those are just jackpots. Those keep a whole studio running for years. So them changing that model, that's definitely got to, have people in the production world scratching their heads, wondering how are we going to make this economically work? So
There's a lot that goes into that.
mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things we talk about on Mentors and Moguls is the great times and what you're doing, but also the other times, because we all know life is not always rainbows and lollipops. And I ask my guests if they've ever had a time when they had a serious setback of any kind, some bump in the road that they really didn't expect, and it wasn't in their path. It wasn't in their plan. Have you ever had a setback? And if so, what was your go-to? How did you deal with that setback to keep moving forward? Can you recall anything that comes to mind?
Well, I actually had a brain hemorrhage. I had just been hired as the new director at CBS on our promotion. I was given a team that was already in place. I was about 10 years younger than most of the women that were there. And Heather, jokingly, I have to say, I looked even younger than I was. So I'm with these women who are 10 years older than me, who have been there for 20 plus years. I look like I'm 20 something and I'm their boss. And so this was really difficult. It was a really difficult 6 months. And then I had a brain hemorrhage.
What happened?
And almost died. Yeah, you're going to laugh. I was actually watching The Apprentice and my mind blew. I had a vein burst in my head. But it's okay. I recovered and I was fine. But when you talk to pretty much anybody, I would assume who has a near death experience, you really get to adhere to don't sweat the small stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really didn't matter anymore. And at the time too, I had two separate bosses. I had a marketing boss and I had the programming boss, and they did not get along. And we were doing a new campaign for the CBS daytime, and I needed to get approval on what the look was going to be, what was our brand going to be. And they were fighting, and I had just come back to work. I had only been back to work like 2 or 3 days, and I was only working half days because, my brain was still healing. And I'll never forget, we were in my marketing boss's office, and the two of them were going back and forth, and I slammed the folder down and I said, I just need a decision. Do you like this campaign or this campaign? And I had never done that before, so they were both so shocked to look at me, and they looked at each other, and my marketing boss said, I like this campaign. And my programming said, I do too. And I said, great, I got to go home now. So I closed the folder and I turned around and I walked out the door. So, I don't know if that's kind of what you were looking for, but I can say, I definitely held on to that for a long time. Don't sweat the small stuff. I also think I became a better manager to these women. I sort of met them at where they were. I mean, they had the same boss who was like a larger than life figure for over 20 years. And here I come in, this young whippersnapper. So I sort of met them more at where they were. Mm-hmm. That helped a lot as well with my management style. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure if that was what you were looking for, but it's what came to mind.
Well, no, I think that was a great portrayal of you definitely switched things up as a result of it. It affected your pathway. Were there times when you just felt, were you scared before you did the comeback? What did it terrify you, or did it just knock you into reality of what matters most and what doesn't matter?
It knocks you into reality. Right. I mean, it just does. I mean, and there might be people that doesn't happen to, but it definitely gets you more clear because you realize you can't take life for granted. I mean, you are not guaranteed tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You could be sitting in your living room all by yourself, a single 36-year-old woman her career is taking off. She's a triathlete. She's got a ton of great friends, and at 9:30 at night, whammo, it hits.
Wow.
You just never know.
You never know. Well, obviously you came back, you are no worse for the wear. So we're grateful for that.
I met my husband a month later, and now I'm married and have two beautiful kids. So that definitely put me in the right direction.
Okay, then. Not so bad. I mean, it's terrible to say that, but not so bad. But really, I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't. The irony of your mind blew while you're watching The Apprentice. I'm sorry for laughing, but that was pretty good.
It's funny. It is. It makes me laugh to this day.
Well, my next question is kind of tying into that subject. I like to ask everyone 3 questions. Looking back at your younger self, let's say your 27-ish year old self, what do you wish you would have not wasted so much time on? What would you tell yourself?
Gosh, worrying. It all works out. It really works out. And have faith in yourself because you have everything you need to succeed. And don't worry about what other people are saying. That's their problem, not yours. Not everyone's going to be your friend, and that's okay. And those that I have to admit, like climbing the ranks, when I was climbing the ranks, it could be different now. I had to take quite a few knives out of my back. But you know what? It's all okay. You just don't worry about that. Don't worry what other people are doing or saying. Just do what you do and do it your best, and everything works out.
Okay. And what do you think you would have wished you would have spent more time on?
Honestly, I really wish I would have been more present with what I was doing. I took so many things for granted, Heather. I'd go to the Price is Right set every day, almost on a daily basis. And I never took a picture with me in the wheel.
Really?
Yeah, can you really? I didn't, I met some amazing people. I got to spend an afternoon with Betty White.
Oh,
who can say that?
No, lucky you.
Oh my God. One of our pilots, she was a celebrity. And I kid you not, Heather, she is amazing. She walked in with her little makeup kit, one of those old kits, the brown box, it was just her and her makeup kit. She didn't have an entourage. She didn't have people, and just sat in her dressing room and talked to her for like a half an hour. And she was just wonderful. And I didn't take a picture with her either. So I think I just wish I would have been more mindful and appreciated what was going on and what I was doing, and not trying to, work super hard and just everything being a blur, and actually step back and appreciate the moments of what's happening.
Stopping and smelling the roses a little bit along the way.
Yep, absolutely.
What does happiness mean to Michelle?
Happiness is a state of mind, honestly. No matter what you're going through or where you're at, whether you're on a beautiful beach drinking, a fancy drink with a umbrella in it, or, you're in the mud on something that isn't fun. But you know what? You can count your blessings and be grateful and have your mindset. It's all where you're at, because you aren't guaranteed tomorrow. So it's for me, it's a mindset.
Well, you definitely have a great attitude, a great work ethic. You're a great role model. And I am so happy that you shared your thoughts with us today. Where can people find you, find out more about what you're offering? What are you doing these days?
Well, I'm actually, you know what, Heather, that's so funny you ask. I'm actually, I wouldn't say in front of the camera, but kind of. I have my own podcast. It's called The New Mid, MID, and it's all about redefining midlife. Because, here I am 51, and I do not feel 51. I feel 31. And I have young kids. So, I have friends who have kids that they have grandkids that they're showing on Facebook. So we're kind of Gen X. We're redefining midlife. We're making it what we want it to be. And so I'm highlighting that. I'm on my podcast, and also, I have a Facebook group for women our age, our age out there, us midlifers. It's the New Mid private Facebook group, and I would love for you to join. We have a lot of fun stuff going on in there. I give inspirational talks in the morning, and then we have Zumba and weight training and cooking. I'm learning how to cook. At 51, I'm finally learning how to cook.
Good for you.
And that's actually quite fun. But you can always find me at thenewmid.com.
I love it. I love it. Well, it is a great podcast and your entire platform is wonderful. And we could all use a little bit of a pep talk. And absolutely, I think, what is it? 50 is the new 30?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thanks, Michelle. Everyone, go head over to the New Mid and check it out. And we will tune in with you next year to see where you are in the world and what you're up to. Thank you, Michelle.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Heather.
That's all for this week. Thank you for listening to the Mentors and Moguls Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to rate and review the Mentors and Moguls Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find bonus video episodes at mentorsandmogulspodcast.com or check out our events page and our blog at heatherrstone.com. Until next time, make it a great day.